Hello and welcome to our final episode of quarter two for 2025. Yep, we're at the end of June, halfway through 2025. Incredible, I know. And of course, as always, at this time, at the end of each quarter, it's time for a recap where I'm in the cockpit, flying solo, if you like, across the world, reconnecting with our gracious guests. And by now, you should be familiar with our approach. We chunk our 12 episodes from the quarter into four groups, i.e., into clusters of three guests. And thanks to the brilliance of our marketing team, we're able to incorporate each of the promotional intros to save you listening to my wonderfully crafted radio voice the entire time. So here we go with the first of our three guests. First up, keeper Catherine Whitney, Mayim Vega, and San Hong. What a great trio to get us underway at the beginning of April 2025. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of episode 155. Yep, we're 155, incredible, I know. The journey takes us to Los Angeles to chat with Mr. Nick Whitney, aka Keeper Catherine Whitney, the keeper of an incredible secret for decades and who's now shared the devastating story of sexual abuse within his family. Yet from the outside, looking in, this was a blessed family with a musical gift that propelled them to national stardom as a brand, the Whitneys. A deeply personal and traumatic journey, and Keeper has captured the narrative in his book called Helplessness. Here's some of the stats about Keeper Catherine Whitney. Born in 1958, makes him 2 years older than me, born in San Francisco, second of eight siblings, and his father had 24 children in total. They grew up with frequent relocations due to evictions, as well as unstable housing, living with incredible poverty much of their childhood. For From a formal education point of view, you could describe his education as spotty at best, but he became the subject matter expert on sibling trauma through his lived experience. Take a listen to the intro to learn more. But
Hmm.
if I look at you now and I look at where you are and everything in your life today, the amount of resilience that you have demonstrated along that journey is nothing short of remarkable. I'm guessing at the time, was it evident that you were so resilient, or was it a case of surviving?
It was purely a case of survival.
Yeah,
If I were to say, yes, I recognize it, I would be so disingenuous. I would just be trying to pat myself on the back, but it was about survival, as it so often is. When you're in the middle of the turmoil, you don't recognize it until you are able to take a step back years later and have, the 2020 vision and say, wow, that's what was really going on there. So it was resilience. It was about the need to find a way to eat. But at the end of the day, when uh, I found the courage to talk to my sisters, which took 45 years, I understood then I was going to have to somehow come up with a way to be resilient because I was expecting them to just slam me down.
yeah,
So there's a lot of courage that takes place in that environment. You have to figure out a way to have clarity of thought and action. If you're going to find your way out of it, you have to figure out a way to be determined and have resolve when there's nothing in your past that tells you you have what's necessary. There was
yeah,
nothing in my past that said I have the goods to do this. But it goes back to what you said. It's about resolve, and then rather it's about the resilience of it all.
mm,
Because while you're constantly making these decisions about what you're going to do next, you're constantly weighing the risk reward factor to all of it. Okay, and you have to be responsible for whatever comes next. And so the risk and the consequences that happens based on the actions that you choose are vital to the success. And where everyone else chose not to act, I eventually found what I needed to act and save my sister. But it wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. It happened over years.
All right, next up, we're in Dallas, Texas, and we're connecting with former NASA computer scientist, Miss Mayim Vega. Mayim transitioned early in her career to devote more time to being a mother, and in parallel, commenced an entrepreneurial journey helping businesses with their digital product needs. Later, after facing a personal health crisis that conventional medicine couldn't resolve, Mayim pivoted again to found Aruka.com. During this leg of her journey, she studied everything she could find on natural medicines for healing the body and the process of curing her health issues, right? And establishing a holistic healer certification program in the process. Mayim is a self-proclaimed workaholic and perfectionist, and combining scientific background with natural healing methods now empowers others struggling with their own challenges. It's an incredible testament to what's possible when we refuse to accept anything other than the right outcome. Time for the track, so take a listen. Tell us a little bit about the journey then. Like you decide to find your own cure, your own solution, which is incredible to start with. But what happened? What transpired during that journey?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some really quick fixes. Like you could try peppermint, for headache or migraine, but that doesn't really deal with the root cause, you know.
Hmm.
It is an herbal sort of like a band-aid. It's like an herbal sort of, a temporary fix. For me, the first one of the first things that I found out was that when I took B12, my migraines would go away, and it worked better than Tylenol, Excedrin, Valium, anything that I would get over the counter or from the doctor.
Right.
B12, vitamin B12. So for some people, this is the cause of their migraines. It could be a vitamin or mineral deficiency.
Right.
Magnesium is another common deficiency that causes migraines. So it could be B12, it could be magnesium, it could be a specific toxin that you are regularly consuming that you don't know about. And it could be something that you're eating, like MSG does it for some people, or additives, artificial flavors or colors. It could be those things. So for everyone, it's different. But I had an okay diet, but I realized so then I'm like, okay, B12 makes my migraines go away better than any kind of pharmaceutical drug. Then I said, well, why? Why does it make
Yeah.
my migraines go away? And I realized that it was because one reason was because of my diet at that time. I thought I was healthy. I was a very health conscious person, and I was vegetarian, aspiring to be vegan, and that actually caused me to have a B12 deficiency. So I had to stop trying to be vegan, and I had to start incorporating eggs and fish and cheese back into my diet. I didn't want to do meat yet at that time, but I did eventually do that later.
Mhm.
But so that made it so that if I was eating basically dairy and eggs and fish, I didn't have to take B12 anymore. So that I was getting closer to the root cause. And then, with my scientific mind, I said, well, there are a lot of people out there who are vegetarian or vegan. Why are they not experiencing? Because I had friends who were, doing, following the same diet that I was in my
Mm.
social circle. And so it's like, well, why are they not getting these migraines? And then so I realized that it was due to stress.
All right. So next we're journeying to Middleton, Delaware, and chatting with San Hong, the lead consultant for Drive Phase Consulting. San helps clients leverage no code and AI intelligence technology to scale their companies. He's a startup veteran with over 15 years of experience and helps other founders with their startup idea validation, ideation, if you like. During that time, he's generated over 15 million in revenue in a variety of industries, including marketing, communications, food and beverage, e-commerce, financial services, and real estate development, as well as technology, of course. San received his bachelor's in biology from the University of Pennsylvania, where he also competed on the varsity men's track team for 4 years. He later received his master's in education from the University of Pennsylvania, during which time he served as a student teacher and a volunteer track and field coach at the University High School in West Philadelphia. Here's the track from our discussion back in late April. So just explain the social listening concept a little bit more, if you don't mind, Sam. How do you listen to a social conversation? Like what's the whole
Well,
premise?
I won't give all the secrets on the back end, but basically, I can put in certain keywords in,
Hmm,
and every day on the signal board it comes in,
right.
and all the all the mentions of the keywords that I look for come into one place. And then what I also did was we used AI to score those because some of them aren't going to be relevant for what I want, right? So it's going to
Yep, yep,
score those. And then in addition to that, we also have it so AI can generate a response for you. And then I still usually edit it, but it generates response. So, you know, like for instance, um, I'll use paint by number. So if
okay,
we were monitoring paint by number, I would put that into the system. So every day it would pull in every mention of paint by number on Twitter, Reddit, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably not as relevant for that one, but
hmm,
Reddit's a good one. And so then I can go and draft a response. So someone's saying, "Hey, does anyone know any good paint by number companies?" I
right.
can go in and be one of the first to respond and say, "Hey,
Yep,
we have one." And then you're engaging in that conversation of
right.
people that are starting that conversation. So it's really listening to relevant conversations to you so that you can be one of the first to participate and engage with that poster. And what I'll find is half the time the leads aren't coming from the original poster. Half the
Right.
time it's coming from someone else that happened into that conversation and then read through and saw my comment. And so Reddit's been affected because the SEO on Reddit is so effective that half the time when you're searching for something, Reddit posts are among the top conversations. And so they'll
Okay.
come in doing research on an XYZ topic, and then they'll see that Reddit post and they'll do it. So it's really an effective tool. And so but at the end of the day, we built the platform to automate that process quite a bit.
All right. Well, that rounds out our first trio. Excuse me. Before we jump headlong into the next guest block, we're going to take a pause here for a short commercial break. Sorry about this, but hey, what the heck? Did you know that Coaching for Companies offers small business consulting across various industry sectors, most specifically engineering, manufacturing, and construction? And we leverage our proven 4x growth formula to assist company leaders identify the gaps and put strategies in place that help their businesses' performance explode. Head over to our website and complete the free business health check. And if you choose, contact us for a free, no obligation chat. Our team will be there waiting and really happy to support you. Okay, we're back. Let me have a quick drink before we move on to the next three guests that join us on the show starting around the end of April and moving into May 2025. They were none other than Mr. Richard Lowe, Michelle Davies, and Scott Trumbold. All right, so starting with episode 158, and we're journeying to Clearwater, Florida. That's just west of Tampa, right off the Gulf of Mexico, and if you prefer, the Gulf of America, as we believe it's now called. Regardless, we're here to chat with Mr. Richard Lowe. Richard's a professional ghostwriter, photographer, programmer, as well as leader. And as Richard says from the outset, He's journeyed through many career paths, each twist and turn shaping him into the individual that he is today. Beginning his career as a tech professional, Richard became the vice president of two different companies. He worked at Trader Joe's for 20 years as the director of technical services and computer operations, managing a team of technical wizards, resolving disaster situations, and being on call around the clock. Richard, eventually tired of the stress, the exhaustion, and the mindless office politics, and realized working for a big company was killing him. So he decided it was time for a change and bid farewell to that chapter of his life, thus embarking on a thrilling new adventure. A very insightful conversation, to say the least. Check out our promo track.
I was writing my own book, which I'm still writing because I got distracted, called Peacekeeper, and it's a science fiction book, and it's based a million years in the future, and blah blah blah. And I was attending writing critique groups, and then I ran into a ghostwriter who had his own company, and he was
Right.
looking for writers. So he hired me, and I wrote 3 books for him for $1,000 each, basically. I mean, give or take. And
Yeah.
one of them was for an Afghan politician, um, who was a politician in Afghanistan before the Soviets invaded, before the Taliban even existed, and he's responsible for building all the roads and things. Um,
Okay.
I wrote, we never finished it, but I wrote his book, and I remember having to do like 16 hours of interviews in one day because he was flying back to Afghanistan through an interpreter. That was a interesting project. A couple
Mm.
other projects, finished the books. Like I said, it just wasn't my thing. It wasn't enough money. It wasn't the right environment. And I was getting very discouraged. So I said, okay, I'm going to go off on my own because I still had, I still have substantial savings.
Right.
So I started writing my own books because my idea was ghostwriters can't show what they've written. So I better have my own books as in a portfolio. Well, I went crazy. I always go crazy. I wrote 60 books on just about everything, from fiction to business to relationships. I mean, coloring books, puzzle books. I did a little bit of everything, and they're all out there on Amazon. And then I started getting my clients. I got a client the day after I left the ghostwriting company. I got a client for $15,000, and then a couple days later, another one for 10,000, which was like, oh boy, wow, that was easy.
Right.
It turned out that was easy, and it actually isn't that easy because then getting future clients was hard. But um, it sure was fun writing those first books, and I really got the taste of it, getting it done and seeing the look on their face. Well, they were all remote through Skype at the time, not Zoom. There was no
Okay.
Zoom back then.
From Richard in Florida to Worcestershire, England, and chatting with Michelle Davies, an internationally acclaimed brain care expert, healer, and osteopathy health consultant, mentor, biofrequency specialist, speaker, and author. Wow. Michelle's work has been delivering the highest standard of care, professionalism, and the most excellent results in healing since 1997. Michelle has a Bachelor's of Science degree in osteopathy, awarded by none other than Anne Princess Royal, following 4 years full-time training in London, at the British School of Osteopathy. Since beginning her practice almost 3 decades ago, Michelle's dedicated her life to unlocking the brain's potential and has witnessed firsthand how healthier brains can transform lives, working with all ages from 2 years young to the elderly, using a variety of techniques to facilitate the healing of a majority of symptoms from head to toe. Michelle has authored two books, the first, Miracle Worker, which released in 2020, and more recently in 2024, Mental Clarity, which is the subject of our recording. So, as with all our episodes, these are educational opportunities for me as well as for you. So please take the time and check out this track. Let's address some of these questions through the book, because I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but the book is called
It's
Mental
okay.
Clarity. So perhaps you could sort of step us through the concept of the book, and let's start with, what's the purpose? Why did you write the book? And then we can go a little bit deeper into the book.
There are 10 chapters in the book. The book it's written over 100 pages. I made it quite short so that you could read it within a few days. There's an important message in the book that a lot of problems that we face, we don't have to face them if we make different decisions earlier on.
Right.
And I have been treating a lot of mental health conditions such as suicide ideation, depression, psychosis, schizophrenia, dementia. And a lot of the patients I see have made attempts on their life regularly. And I wanted to share my work with the world so that people would understand that not all mental health issues are actually of an emotional mental condition. It's actually a physical condition that manifests as a mental illness. So all the cases that I have seen that I've just mentioned, all of them have had concussion at some point. They've had a brain injury or a trauma. And usually it's a trauma to the head, but sometimes it's just a trauma to the neck. And
Right.
these traumas can also they can also come from birth. So even birth, early childhood can lead to an issue later in adult life with anxiety and depression because of this poor glymphatic system. And most people have not got that awareness, and they feel that it's their fault that they're suffering in such a dreadful way. Because often these people have wonderful families and a supportive network. They are dearly loved, but they feel that there is no reason why they're suffering this way. And the book is an answer to these people that are suffering so much.
Okay.
The book explains about the brain, the structure of the brain, and how to support the structure so that you can get better function from it, which means not suffering anxiety and depression and having better mood regulation. I talk about nutrition and also the environment and electromagnetic radiation, EMF, the environment, like being in nature and how that supports us and how that enables us to discharge a lot of this electromagnetic radiation that we're exposed to. I talk about the spiritual side as well and how you can honor the Christ oil, because it's not just a structure, it's actually our spiritual side as well, our spiritual aspect. We live in 4 quadrants of life. We're spiritual, mental, emotional, physical beings, not just physical. We need to get a balance in those 4 quadrants. And I discuss that in the book. Through every chapter of the book, there are tips on how you can improve the health of your brain and your nervous system. It goes into detail as well about how we can create new brain cells, because we may have had trauma and we may have a lot of dead cells, but we can create new cells through just learning activities, doing something new every day, or learning something that you haven't been exposed to before. Even listening to this podcast, there's new information for people, but that's at the time you're listening to that, it is actually stimulating new brain cells.
Rounding out our second group, as well as taking us to the halfway mark, is our guest from Florida again, in the township of Coral Springs, which is a short drive north of Fort Lauderdale. And we're here chatting with Mr. Scott Trumpold. Scott's career is defined by a seamless evolution from corporate leader to independent consultancy, reflecting over 30 years of expertise in compensation planning, HR leadership, and reward strategies. For 18 years, Scott excelled in the corporate world, holding HR and compensation leadership roles across the United States and Germany. And in 2012, he launched Trump-hold compensation design solutions to provide bespoke solutions tailored to the unique needs of organizations worldwide. Scott's corporate experience provides a solid foundation for mastering market-based pay structures, sales incentive plans, and job classification systems. Transitioning into independent consultancy, Scott has spent the past 12 years leveraging his expertise to deliver innovative client-focused strategies. See for yourself in the following track. Have you seen a lot of change within that 30-year period?
Yes, I have. It's been an ongoing evolution,
Right.
absolutely. And the thing that I mostly see is HR, human resources, striving more and more to become a strategic business partner instead of, now let's face it, human resources is not a profit center. It doesn't generate a profit or contribute directly, say, with sales, as in sales or operations. So the struggle, and I shouldn't say so much the struggle, the challenge is to make yourself a strategic business partner. And one of the ways that I see things have changed is HR used to be primarily focused on things like compliance, which is still very important. I'm not saying these things are going away, but compliance with various employment laws, getting involved in performance management of employees, handling different types of personnel issues. But that's very more on the tactical side. It's important. But if you're going to be a strategic business partner, and that really is the evolution that we've been seeing, is having human resources take a more proactive role and saying, we know that the way that human resources can contribute to the business bottom line is to improve employee engagement. We can measure through employee opinion surveys the levels of engagement of employees. So what's important in the employee engagement perspective? We know that it's the immediate manager that the employee has. That's the dynamic. That's the most important relationship. So if we can arm the managers with tools such as career architecture that's linked to market-based pay and give them advice and training on how to meet these needs of their employees, then we are being more strategic.
Not only time for another commercial break, but time for a drink. So at Coaching for Companies, we offer 3 core services. As mentioned previously, we support small businesses in the industrial sector through our performance and growth consultation. Another service is the ET Development Division. This is where the ET project sits. This is part of the ET project and offers 4 free services: this weekly podcast, our monthly live broadcast, quarterly masterclasses, as well as quarterly challenges. Now, in parallel to the ET project is our ET Academy for both B2B and B2C clients. And this is our formal premium side of our executive skills development, our capabilities development for executives, if you like. Here's where we offer short virtual masterminds, tiered flagship long duration development programs running anywhere from 3 days to 12 months, plus the pinnacle of the academy, our elite destination masterminds conducted in an exotic location somewhere around the world 3 times a year. If you'd like to learn more, then please visit our website at coachingforcompanies.com. That's the number 4, not the word 4. So coaching4companies.com, all one word. Send us a query or even book in a call. We're more than happy to connect with you and support your needs. All right, so we're back again and ready to move into group 3, and 3 more very interesting guests joining us. Mary Lippitz, we have a panel group joining us from the Adaptive Leaders team, and then finally Betsy Pepin. So let's start with Mary and episode 162. This means we're in Tampa, Florida, chatting with the acclaimed author, dynamic speaker, an insightful consultant renowned for her groundbreaking work in leadership, critical thinking, and change execution. Dr. Mary Lippert. Um, Dr. Lippert really has a passion for empowering organizations and specializing in guiding clients through today's most pressing business challenges. Excuse me, delivering innovative solutions that drive success. Her extensive research encompassing insights from over 6,000 leaders has unveiled the critical business mindsets essential for overcoming blind spots and fostering effective leadership. Team, over the past 2 decades, Dr. Lippert has written multiple books, and you'll hear us discuss lessons from her two most recent books. The first is titled Situational Mindsets, Targeting What Matters When It Matters, and her latest award-winning book, Leadership, Saving the Herd, where Dr. Lippert skillfully weaves a compelling fable that highlights the pivotal issues in executing change. If you have an interest in handling your next change assignment better, then you really do yourself a favor by checking out this track. One of the areas that I was reading about is the team dynamics and the increased effectiveness, I guess, of the team as a result of the agility program and the mindset program. How do you go about improving things like collaboration and trust within a team? Do you have a specific methodology?
The work that I do really focuses on making sure that everyone on the team isn't seen as a leader. It isn't just the person with a title. And I also build trust by encouraging people to look at their last project that they did together and identify, what should we have started to do earlier? What should we have stopped doing? What should we have done more often? What should we have done less often? So I find that just asking basic questions is more likely to develop the trust rather than just assuming that the person with the title has the answers. I will also say that there's some research that shows that many of the leaders in teams and organizations have actually not had leadership development. They're called almost accidental leaders. They've been thrown into something, and the mindset framework helps them, but it also encourages them to be the engaging, listening person. We all talk about active listening. I talk about reflective listening, because active listening has become, I'll be quiet, I'll listen to you. Wait a moment. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what you just said. But that isn't really what we need. I need to listen to you, leave, think about ways to bridge what I could, and then come back and have, bridge building sessions or ways that we can combine ideas, whether you want to call it fine tuning or whether you want to call it a major adjustment, I don't care.
All right, next up, we have something special, a panel discussion with several members of the global training and coaching company Adaptive Leaders. Our panel guests include Managing Partner, Mr. Ray Chow, Managing Director for India, Aditi Malik, and Executive Coach and author of the book that we're going to be discussing, or that we discuss at length, Mr. Albert Wolf. So we're coming together for this discussion on the subject of performance leadership, which is also the title of their newly released book. And with the guidance from this insightful expert panel, you're going to learn why the focus on performance is central to driving engagement and talent retention, as well achieving results for organizations that they're seeking. You're going to hear us speaking about 3 C's of adaptive leaders and learn about the acronym EMMA, a 4-layered framework designed to provide a well-rounded approach to supercharging performance as well as leadership. Team, the book is filled with real-world case studies derived from working with clients across a multitude of industries worldwide. Another great discussion around performance leadership. So if you're interested, please do yourself a favor and check out this track. Very good. And of course, the book, Marshall Goldsmith. I mean, we're all coaches, so we all know Marshall Goldsmith, but what got you here may not get you there, to your point, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very good. I've seen in many places in the book, on your website, you talk about the 3 C's, the leadership traits, if you like, to be an adaptive leader of courage, curiosity, and caring. Where does this derive from? Where did you come across this, or how does it fit within your business?
Ray, Aditi, do one of you want to speak to that?
Probably let Ray take a shot at that.
Sure.
to begin with.
I'll take a shot at that, but then please, Aditi, don't be shy. So we really, I mean, the book and a lot of our materials is, it's based on the last 10 plus years in our of being as an adaptive leadership team and all of our coaches' individual experience. And we asked ourselves, if we were to try to characterize what are the must-have characteristics of an adaptive leader, and we really felt it boiled down to these 3 C's, curious, courageous, and caring. And just really, really briefly breaking that down, it's that curiosity about self, about the context, about the world, that willingness to ask the what if, the how might we questions, and that's really that pushing yourself to, I know on some of your other podcasts you've talked, Wayne, about pushing yourself to that learning edge, that growth edge, and so that's the curiosity must have. Of course, the courageous side is not just being curious about it or being reflective of that, but having the courage to take action, to do something about it, to try something new. The care one is probably maybe for some of your listeners, maybe, oh, where does that come from? But that's both caring for those around you, but that's self-care as well, and just trying to find that balance. And so we have this conversation about, well, what happens, for most of the leaders that we work with, the reality is they have a bit of all 3 of the C's, maybe even strength in 2 of them. But even as I'm talking, maybe some of you are thinking, oh, if I had to pick one of them is a little bit not as prevalent or not as consistent, and what would that look like? And that's where we're just trying to start the conversation, give something sticky, easy to understand. But if you keep in mind these 3 C's, I think you're going to find yourself pushing yourself to be a bit more adaptive.
So we have our final guest in this 3rd cluster, the 3rd group, and we're heading back to Florida, to Gainesville, in fact, and catching up with best-selling author and serial entrepreneur Betsy Pepin. Betsy's established herself in the real estate industry, owning a real estate brokerage, property management firm, title company, real estate school, as well as many other things I'm sure she's working on at the moment. The Wall Street Journal has consistently recognized her real estate team as one of the top producing in the United States. Betsy's brokerage, Pepin Realty, has been named as an Inc. 5,000 fastest growing private company in the United States multiple times, and has earned spots on the top 50 Florida companies to watch, as well as the Florida Trend Best Companies to Work For lists. Betsy is endorsed by her mentor and real estate mogul and Shark Tank shark, Barbara Corcoran, as well as leading media personality Dave Ramsey and Glenn Beck. Passionate about helping at-risk families with children, Betsy founded Pepin Gives, a non-profit foundation that helps families facing housing insecurity. Really interesting conversation. I really enjoy talking with people around real estate. So check out this track, because this is Betsy's really, I would have to say, professional area of expertise. So check it out and learn more. It's such a great segue. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Pepin Gives. This is your not-for-profit, but what led you to start this, and what's the whole premise around this
Yeah.
organization?
So, the idea was started when I was in that class at Wharton, and I got to experience working with cost burden families, and then recognizing that I happen to live in the highest cost burden county in the state of Florida. So cost burden meaning, the median income doesn't equate to the median household price. And so there's a huge discrepancy and gap between the number of families that work but cannot afford a home. So that was kind of the setting. But I've always had a service heart. My companies have always had that component in them, but I was finding that we were doing service very randomly and sporadically. So we would volunteer a couple hours here, we would give some money here, we would do, a couple, you know, we would go paint stalls for horses, for blind horses. We would do animal rescue. We would feed the homeless, like just kind of all over the place. And several years ago, we as a company decided the whole point of service is to make an impact. So we changed our core value from one of our core values from service to impact, and we formalized all of our service into this nonprofit called Pepin Gives and said, how do we serve a, a segment of our population that will never use our services, but still need a home? And so that it was just a natural fit because everybody needs a home. Home could be the definition of a home is different for everybody, but everybody needs a home. And so this is just a great symbiotic relationship serving people who need our product but can't afford our services.
All right. Well, you know where we are. We're at the end of cluster 3, which means final commercial time once again. This time, you've heard me talk already about 2 of our 3 service functions, small business consulting, as well as capabilities development for executives. Our third area of focus is coaching, whether that's business or career, through one-on-one, team, or group coaching. We've got you covered. Here at C4C, the coaches that we use are seasonal professionals. They've run their own businesses, their own companies. They've worked as advisors, mentors for executives, and they've coached extensively there around the world for global clients. We also ensure that we keep you current and experiencing the latest technology through our tripod coaching packages. So what does that mean? When you sign up for us, you're given access to our own AI coach, as well as, not our own, but your own AI coach, as well as a human coach. And both are combined with our coaching management platform where clients have direct access to their notes, their tools, the templates, the action plans, and so forth. So that's why we call it our tripod coaching package. It really does ensure that we keep you, the client, as our center of focus and attention. Interested? Then why not read more from our website? As you heard me say earlier, coachingforcompanies.com. That's the number 4, coachingforcompanies.com, and then connect when you're ready. All right, so hopefully you can sense the enormous value that's on offer through this podcast as we work our way through these amazing leaders who come on our show free of charge. We don't pay our guests. They come on because they have an interest in delivering insights and value to you, the listener. So I hope that you're getting equal enjoyment as I am. I know my knowledge continues to grow exponentially as a result of this opportunity. So our final 3 guests, let's have a listen to who they are. Justin Abrams, Marina Morgan, and Ben Cena. All right, so our 10th guest for this quarter resides in Boston, Massachusetts, and we're visiting a consulting group, yeah, and as well as the founder and the CEO, Justin Abrams, originally started it as the group started, I should say, as the McKinsey for small businesses, because Justin believes small businesses deserve proper strategy, growth, and excellence. And his company, ACG, structures itself into three pillars of success: strategy, growth, and optimization. So, with strategy, they bring you the research, data, and principles that you typically are provided by the large consulting firms, but he does it at 100th of the price. Their ongoing consultations and the relationships they form with the owners and the operators feel more like a therapy session or a coaching session than they do a business meeting. Their goal is to unmask the pain points within your organization. And then the growth pillar is focused on, well, growth. 80% of small businesses suffer with lead generation. Here, I understand where we're coming from now. And nearly every customer they encounter has been burned by a marketing agency. Unlike most, however, they've developed a wholly organic lead generation strategy, and the customer never pays a dollar to those costly platforms like, I shouldn't mention their names, but Google, Meta, TikTok, they all cost you money. So without going any deeper, check out the incredible conversation, learn how you can attract more leads yourself, understand what Justin and his team offer by listening to this promo track, and then you can go deeper and re-listen to the whole episode if you choose. How will you maintain let's say, the personal touch, the strong involvement as your business grows? Like, this is one of the challenges that all small businesses have as they scale, and they've been heavily involved in dealing with their clients. As they grow, they start to lose that personal service, personal touch. For yourself, as you get busier and busier, what's your approach going to be?
I think the pitch is going to have to change a bit where, I hire someone who I really, really, I feel like is very similar to me. I was listening to Mr. Beast, like the largest YouTuber, and he talks, because I was struggling with this question, and he basically hires someone to shadow him constantly. Like, he's like, I'm gonna find someone who's very similar to me, and they're just going to shadow me all throughout the day. And now I'm going to create over 6 months like a carbon copy of myself. And I think I'm going to, and I already have started to do that more and more, of like giving extremely hard tasks to my team, knowing full well they're not going to get it 100%, but I can tell them and I can walk them through how I solved this to the 100% that I've done, even if I'm not perfect,
right?
So that they can start to like duplicate me. And I want them to think, obviously, for themselves, but I also want them to think through like being the business owner and like what the quality is at our company. And I'm certainly, I know more than a new hire will. So I'm not trying to get them to be perfect, but over 6 months, I think they can really get there. And certainly worked well for Mr. Beast, and he's really gone through like methodically how to do it. So that's kind of how I would do it.
All right, our penultimate guest of Q2 2025. Well, for this guest, we're heading to Silicon Valley, and we're connecting with business psychologist, entrepreneur, and speaker Marina Morgan. Marina is the founder of Morgan Impact, an organizational psychology agency with over 15 years of experience in both corporate and entrepreneurial environments. Marina specializes in combining psychological principles, neurophysiology, and business strategies to help leaders and organizations thrive in today's dynamic world. A Stanford alum, Marina has had opportunities to collaborate with UC Berkeley and Acona on global research examining influence of mental health on entrepreneurial success. Really something I'm looking forward to getting my hands on and reading. The research has deeply informed her approach to leadership as well as business development. And as an entrepreneur, Marina founded her first business at the age of 19 and has since advised over 50 companies across various sectors. Her entrepreneurial journey has centered around helping businesses innovate, adapt, and thrive with a focus on unlocking resilience and driving sustainable growth. So please do yourself a favor, check out the track and see what you can learn. I'm a leader, and just my background, I've lived a parallel life. So I've been an entrepreneur as well as a corporate leader most of my career. So I was very fascinated by the difference that exists in mindset between the corporate manager and the entrepreneur. And I know you talk a lot about this. So could you sort of introduce what are these differences? Where do they stem from?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I just want to say that it will not be just my experience. I'm here based on some kind of research, and on this year, I was proudly or one of the organizers of the research with the Berkeley University, where we're trying to find the correlation between the entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial mental health and the business successfulness. And pretty soon it will be published already, but the result that we got is pretty impressive. So, I'm working with the business owners, and this is one of the reasons why I started to learn more about neurophysiological aspect, because understanding of the neurophysiological picture is the fastest way to provide this resolve change when you understand what's going on. So let's use the vocabulary that typically exists in the science research, like entrepreneurial and non-entrepreneurial brain. And I can say that this is pretty good financed industry. I mean, the research in this field, and I think you can try to guess why, but right now we have more or less relevance research that demonstrate us that these differences exist. I just want to say that entrepreneurs can be different, and of course, C-level managers and professional professions and who work in the companies, they can be pretty different. And here we will just speak about those differences that we find neurophysiologically. And again, you should know that this is just data. There are, of course, some excludes from these numbers. There one interesting fact I've already shared it with you, that entrepreneurs typically have more sensitive dopamine system. What's that mean in practice? We are much more sensitive to the results and to this big picture.
All right. Now, last but far from least, today we're meant to be in Dubai, however. We're diverted, the plane has been diverted to Lithuania so that we could catch up with our guest, Ben Sina, co-founder and CEO of High Value Author. The company helps entrepreneurs and thought leaders gain market footholds through expertly crafted book writing, publishing, and marketing. As Ben shares, every entrepreneur and leader has a unique story that deserves to be told. And at High Value Author, they take that story and they transform it into a powerful tool for authority building, lead generation, and long-term business growth. Their mission is to make the client's voice resonate far and wide. Books are invaluable as marketing assets for establishing credibility, building brand awareness, and driving sales. And according to Ben and the team at High Value Author, the foundation of any successful book lies in its content and the power of the main message. For the final time, please take a listen to this intro. Why would I, as a leader, think about having a book? Like, what are some of the benefits that come as a consequence of having a bestseller?
Well, it really depends, because sometimes, rarely, we have to kind of, in a nice way, fight with our clients because they want things a certain way, but not necessarily this is the best way in terms of what they want, right? For example, I want to get to this point, and they say, okay, I want it to be this way, but that's not the best path to get there, right? So sometimes if your goal is to, okay, I want to have a book
with for this audience, here's what I want to do with them. I want to leave a legacy behind in this kind of way. How do we do this? Right? If these are your set of goals, okay, you probably should have a book, and that's where we come in. If your goal is to, for example, have a memoir, right? And it really depends, because people people are in different stages. Some people think they want to have a book. Some people think they want to have this like a marketing piece, right? Like a legacy piece. Now there are different reasons for having it, because before we start working with clients, we always have a very strict pre-qualification process, so we know, okay, we can ask them what exactly do they want, not in terms of what kind of book they want, but why do we want this book.
All right, so that's a wrap on our 12 guests from this quarter. But as always, we have another wealth of leadership experience, insights, and learning heading our way as we move into quarter three in July of 2025. To kick us off for the quarter, we're diving into why the topic of facilitation is no longer just a nice to have skill, it's a leadership imperative. And we're doing it with our guest, Therese Miklo. Therese Miklo. As you know, as exciting as these podcast episodes are, and you'll know that we're running plenty of other events in the coming quarter, as we always do. In fact, just at the end of this week, which is Friday, 28th of June, we have our next quarterly masterclass, 90-minute masterclass happening. You can check it out via our website. Go to coachingforcompanies.com, and under the development section, you'll see we have quarterly masterclasses. Go there and check it out. We're moving into a really interesting series of topics under the heading of staying relevant. So then in July, as we move into the quarter three, we have our next challenge, our quarterly challenge, the ultimate 2-day challenge, in fact, and the topic of master facilitation, 2 essential phases to elevate your expertise in that area. Then in August, we host our virtual mastermind, the quarter three virtual mastermind, and it's on the same topic. It's called Facilitation Mastery. It consists of 4 2-hour sessions, and it immerses you into this topic so that you can really explode your capabilities. We cap off quarter three of 2025, and for the first time, we're running back-to-back masterminds as well as another masterclass. So the mastermind caters to the demand that we've received from leaders on the companies are wanting to learn the basics of coaching, essentially. And they don't always want to become full-blown qualified coaches. So we've put together a mastermind to give them the basic insights into what coaching is all about, how to develop your level of professionalism as a coach. And, I've been practicing as a mentor and a coach most of my life. This is one that I have special interest in. I've put a lot of effort into the actual program. You'll see it in the content, over 120-page workbook, as well as multiple other things. So it gives leaders the capability to coach their own teams. And then, as I mentioned, we're moving into this series on staying relevant, really highly topical, very important subject in our masterclasses. So with that, team, we've reached the end of this short recap. Hopefully the review has triggered some fond memories about different conversations over the last quarter two. Perhaps it's flagged an episode that you wish to go back to for a second listen. Whatever it is, we wish you all the best. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and bye for now.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.